Should we be concerned about the availability for Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, and others? We just got our updates from practice today about the San Francisco 49ers. And we've been waiting for to see who was going to be able to practice, which is going to give us our answers for who will be available throughout the week. So, we're going to talk about if we should be concerned about the San Francisco 49ers and some of their key players moving forward. We're going to break it all down right now. You already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the chat. Smash that like button. Let's get at it. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Let's go. I don't know if you guys caught that, but we have a little bit of an updated intro. We've got Purdy back into the intro. We got CMC in the intro. Shout out my guy, John, for putting that together for me and helping us get updated. So we've got Purdy in the intro. We've got CMC in the intro. All is right in the world now. Also, on top of that, we're trying to figure out what is going down with Christian McCaffrey, specifically Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel. And we've also got word that additional starters were held out of practice today. So, not ideal, not the best case scenario that we were looking for. Obviously, we got some really, really good news about the injuries and that they weren't going to be long term or they weren't going to be serious injuries. I'll take that type of information every single day of the week. But as we know, we are trying to look ahead and see if these guys are going to be available for the game coming up on this Monday. So we heard from Kyle Shanahan today, and he let us know some information. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Dre Greenlaw, and Aaron Banks missed practice today. And so they got an extra day. So typically the first day of practice is on a Wednesday, and because it is a Monday night game, they have pushed it back. So this typically when practice begin on Wednesdays, well, that's today. Today is typically their Wednesday, but they're starting on Thursday, and so they're going to have a Friday practice, Saturday practice. I'm assuming they'll either leave Saturday night after practice or travel Sunday morning. So we'll see. And again, it's the first day of the week. So not totally concerned yet. But if we start getting into the second and third days of the week, then we will start getting concerned. And unfortunately, no state of the franchise today. We keep running into some scheduling conflicts. So the hope maybe we'll potentially get together on Friday. I'm hopeful, but it may be a push till next week. But again, we'll keep you guys updated. We just keep running into some scheduling conflicts. But hopefully we'll get state of the franchise up and running here pretty soon. I know we've been waiting all week to hear from Spicy Aponte, but hopefully we might be able to push till tomorrow. But if not, we might just reset for next week. So I'll keep you guys updated on all that that information moving forward. But right now, what we are trying to figure out is like also Aaron Banks and Dre Greenlaw missing practice today. So I don't love it, right? I don't think any of us loves hearing that any of our 5 starters are missing practice today because we want to get these guys on the field ready to go. Well, actually, let me ask you guys that first. Do you want to see these guys play against the Vikings, or do you think this is a good opportunity to get some rest, some recuperation? And we understand it's a long season. Do you guys think that the 49ers should potentially rest some of these guys? I've heard a lot about potentially sitting out Christian McCaffrey just because of the wear and tear that he's um, already put on his body through the first 6 weeks of the year, and obviously gets injured. But it does sound like he was able to avoid any rib injury. Uh, Kyle Shanahan was pretty vague on the details of Christian McCaffrey's injury, but it does sound like it's an oblique strain. So, I mean, the good news is no serious damage to Christian McCaffrey. But what is it going to be? Charlene says it's depending on the player. I think I talked about this yesterday. I would like to see Christian play. But I would like to I wouldn't be upset at seeing a more distributed workload between obviously Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, and Elijah Mitchell. And the number one reason that I would like to see that, it's twofold. First, obviously you're giving Christian McCaffrey less hits, less carries, less wear and tear on the body, but you're still able to use him to contribute to winning the football games. But it becomes a two-tiered situation because, well, we've all thought of that situation and that scenario of like, well, what happens if Christian McCaffrey got hurt for a long period of time? How much does the offense change? How much does the plan change? How much does the schematic attack change because CMC is not there? How does the defense respond to CMC not being out there? So what I wouldn't mind seeing is let's and it's we've talked about this a lot, but it's like maybe get Jordan Mason and Elijah a little bit more worked in to the rotation, so that way we can also gain more information of how defenses respond and react to the San Francisco 49ers when CMC isn't on the field. Who do they because what we've seen on tape is they have been basically putting 2 guys on Christian McCaffrey. At least that's what we saw against the Browns. If they were running man, which they run a ton of man coverage, typically the linebacker is man on with the running back. But what the Browns did is they committed basically 2 guys, the linebacker and the safety, to Christian McCaffrey to ensure he didn't burn them. And so I am interested to see, well, like what does the inverse look like of that? What does it look like without him on the field? What does the safety do at that point? Where does he go? Does he shift over to Kittle? Does he go over to Ayuk? Does he go to Deebo? So I want CMC to play, but I would like to see a little bit more distributed workload between Jordan Mason and Elijah Mitchell, just so we can kind of find maybe a potential rhythm for the backups so that everyone stays fresh. We have good information on how defenses are playing us, and we kind of go from there. But if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I don't bet because it's illegal in California. I would bet that CMC plays. I have a hard time, like, if he got out of that game day to day, and he's day to day with the oblique, and you get an extra day of rest, and you're getting ready for a Monday Night Football game, I feel like CMC is going to play. So that's where my gut is leaning me, is that CMC will play against the Vikings. How much, I think, is a bigger question, but that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. Is I kind of feel like that we could see CMC here in this game, just maybe not as much. And we see more Jordan Mason, we see more Elijah Mitchell as a result. So same thing, but same thing applies with Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel. Obviously, Trent Williams returned to the game against the Browns, and he was able to finish, and he was able to escape without a high ankle sprain, which is fantastic news. I imagine Trent Williams will play as well. Deebo Samuel, pretty similar thing. He talked about it on the Up and Adams show, where it felt really bad when it happened, but throughout the week it had rapidly progressed. So I do think Deebo's going to play as well, but it's also interesting to see that Dre Greenlaw did not practice and Aaron Banks did not practice. So I believe Aaron Banks is dealing with a ankle. So we'll see what is happening with Banks. However, I do feel pretty confident. Let's say Banks can't go. I feel really confident in Jonathan Feliciano. He could honestly be starting right now. They just don't have enough spots. That's really what it comes down to. Jonathan Feliciano is good enough to start and play at a really high level, and we saw that against the New York Giants. So if Feliciano needs to step in, I'm not concerned one bit. I don't think the offense takes a hit at all if they have to go to Feliciano, and that's not a shot at Banks. It's more of I feel really confident in Feliciano's ability to step in and fill that role and keep the offense moving forward. Let's see who else. Dre Greenlaw. I want Dre Greenlaw to play. I think Dre Greenlaw's absence against the Browns was on full display for the 49ers. And I thought Oren Burks did a really good job stepping in. And I like Oren Burks a lot, and I think he's perfect LB3 in the system. And he made some plays against the Browns, but Dre is just so good. That's been one of my biggest takeaways this season, watching the defensive tape. Dre's everywhere. Dre is constantly everywhere. He is probably the fastest linebacker in football right now, and he can do it in pass coverage. He can spy the quarterback. He can go sideline to sideline with the best of them. And I think we missed Dre's ability to stuff the run as well, and just make things really difficult for the offensive linemen because he's in there so quickly. We miss Dre Greenlaw. I miss Dre Greenlaw. I want to get Dre back out there. Dre not playing, to me, like solidified he's a top 5 linebacker in the NFL. Like, we have the number one in the number one in Fred Warner, but I don't need to watch the rest of the linebackers in the NFL to know that Dre Greenlaw is playing at like a top 5 level. He's playing really well. So missing him was unfortunate. Also on the injury report, limited was cornerback Isaiah Oliver with a knee, and George Odom was a full participant with the quad. I was thinking about this the other day. We haven't heard anything about Samuel Womack, or do you remember this guy? Danny Gray. Danny Gray has been on IR now for over 6 weeks. And we haven't heard a single thing about him. I have to go back and I'm going to look up right now. Wasn't it a hamstring? I don't even remember what his original injury is because it's been so long. What is his injury? Shoulder injury, hamstring, collarbone. I think it's a shoulder injury. So Danny Gray had the right SC joint sprain. So he had a shoulder sprain, and he's been on IR for 6 weeks. So I think that Danny Gray not being elevated is not because he's not healthy. It feels like they understand if they bring him off IR, they're going to have to release someone. And right now, they don't want to do that. So this is going to be something that's interesting to see is how long is Danny Gray going to stay on IR? He only had an AC joint sprain, and it's now beyond 6 weeks. It's obviously been longer than that because he did that in preseason. So I don't know. Are we ever going to see Danny Gray again this year? Or has Ronnie Bell just played that well and that they don't feel comfortable with releasing someone on the current 53? The other thing is we haven't seen Darrell Luter Jr. either. So we don't know about Samuel Womack, who's also on IR. And we did hear about Darrell Luter Jr. last week. Kyle Shanahan did say that he expects him back in a couple weeks, potentially. So those are just a couple guys that I was thinking about yesterday. I was like, man, I forgot about Danny Gray. I was like, wait a second. What was Danny Gray's injury? And I was like, oh, I knew it wasn't like a break or something crazy like that. And I was like, oh, so that must be an indication that they like where their roster's currently at, and they don't want to release someone to be able to activate Danny Gray. So that's interesting. Jesse Wade, appreciate the super chat, my boy. Shout out to you and wifey. He says, is it fair to say that Kyle is kind of hurting his squad by overusing CMC? I know Mason fumbled during camp and preseason, but a fumble can be overcome more than a CMC injury. Also, how about giving up 2024 first for MC? Who's MC? MC. Oh, I want to try to guess it before the chat. MC. Michael Chin? Are you talking about Chin? I think that's what you mean by MC. Confirm in the chat. Tell wifey to nod her head yes or no if I was right. Oh, Max Crosby. Oh. Ooh. Max Crosby, huh? That would be like having two Bosas. That would be like having Bosa and Bosa 2.0. That would be wild. I would have Max Crosby in the same exact category as Brian Burns. They're in the same tier in my opinion. So, but I don't think Max Crosby is in the same situation as Brian Burns is. My read on the Brian Burns situation is that ship has sailed. He is not getting paid by the Panthers. The contract negotiations completely broke down. I think he just reading the writing on the walls. I feel like Brian Burns feels completely disrespected by the Panthers organization, whereas I don't see any of that with the Raiders. So for the Raiders to trade Max, I think I never even thought about this. So let me double check. I want to make sure I'm processing this information correctly. So I'm going to look at like what his contract situation is, because I think that plays a big role on him potentially getting traded. So he's under contract. He's fresh. Yeah, I don't see it. I for the Raiders to trade Max Crosby 1 year after they gave him a contract extension, they would be taking on a $47 million cap hit in 2023, a $34 million dead cap hit in 2024, and then it significantly drops, but they would still have a dead cap of over 10 million in 2025 and a 5 million dead cap in 2026. I just don't see why the Raiders would do that. Why would the Raiders trade Max Crosby 1 year into giving him the 4-year, $94 million contract extension, 26 million guaranteed at signing, total of $53 million guaranteed, and trading him 1 year after that? I I don't see that as a potential just on the contract alone. But we can also then take into account, remember, John Lynch uh tried to trade for Khalil Mack, and they had offered a more competitive package for Khalil Mack um over the Bears. But guess what? Mark Davis refused to trade Khalil Mack to the 49ers. He opted to send him to the Bears for less because he didn't want to send Khalil to the San Francisco 49ers. So you take that into account. I don't see Max Crosby being on the block. And if he's on the block, you're talking like 3 first rounders, 4 first rounders. Like there would be no incentive for the Raiders to trade Max Crosby and just take on a dead cap hit nearly of $100 million over the next 4 years. So I like the idea. I like where our head's at of getting a top tier edge. I like where your head's at. But that's why Brian Burns is the most attractive option right now in all of the trade market conversation, is because Brian is done with the Panthers. They're not fixing anything. Brian Burns, I would put it at a 95% chance likelihood that he is going to get traded within the next week. So, with that being the case, I love the idea of trying to go after edge and a top tier edge, but Max Crosby, I don't think is in the conversation. And on top of that, a 2024 first would not do it. You would need to trade a key play. Like you would need to, to me, the way that I would perceive it is like, obviously I'm a big dynasty fantasy football guy. It's where I play GM as best I can with my own teams. It would be a situation of someone sliding into my DMs and being like, "Hey, I want to get Max Crosby," and I would say back to them, "Max Crosby's not for sale, but if you present me an offer that I cannot refuse, then I will trade Max Crosby." But that means like if I'm the Raiders, I'm getting CMC, I'm getting Kittle, like I'm getting some firsts in there. Like that's there to me. There's no incentive for the Raiders to trade Max Crosby at all, unless it's egregious oversell. That's the only way that I would see that happening. Outside of that, it feels like a non-starter. But that's why Brian Burns is right now, to me, the most attractive option in all of this trade conversation because he's 25. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. He is an elite pass rusher, and he's an elite locker room guy. And on top of that, you can wait. The 49ers don't have to make a decision on what they're doing with Brian Burns until the end of the year. They could treat him as a rental, and they have the options to do two things if they were to trade for Brian Burns. They tag and trade him. Let's say, there is an issue signing multiple of our guys and Burns at the end of the year. Okay, well, are you trading up? Are you trading multiple picks just for like 8-9 games? Well, the option there would be to tag him, franchise tag him, and then allow him to seek a trade partner with someone who will pay him so that you then have control of him, and then you trade him at the end of the year and you recoup assets. He gets paid. But I don't think that would happen. I think the 49ers would be able to pay him. Get me BB. Get me BB. This isn't a pipe dream anymore, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't an agenda anymore. This is reality. Someone's going to get Brian Burns on their roster this year, and the 49ers better pray to the football gods that if it's not them, that it's not the Rams, who are 3-3 and pretty scrappy and have a really solid young defensive end outside linebacker in Byron Young, a guy that we talked about on this channel throughout the pre-draft process, guy that I got to interview at the Combine, blew up the Combine with his numbers and is blowing up the NFL as a rookie so far. You don't want to allow the Rams to pair two really quality edge rushers together and quietly make some moves. You don't want him to go to Seattle to add to their defense. You don't want him to go to Philly. You don't want him to go to Dallas. You don't want him to go to multiple spots. So you can kill two birds with one stone. Go trade for Brian Burns, make your team better, and don't let him go to anyone else in the NFC. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just go trade for him. Just go get it done. Just go get it done. Go get BB. Wilkes knows him. Wilkes already knows what he's about. He'll know how to use him. BB and CMC, best buds. Come on. Let's get it done. But I like where your head's at. Leave it up to a Max Crosby trade question to, of course, come back to Brian Burns. It's going to happen. I got about a week left. I think, of the Brian Burns agenda before we know what happens. What's up, Paul? I saw some of those videos from the London watch party that you guys did. Super cool that Joe Staley and Delaney Walker popped up. That was pretty cool. Cool to see you guys out there too, vibing and having a good time and repping for the San Francisco 49ers overseas. Good to see all the stuff that you're doing, Paul, with your whole group over there. It's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool. Trade Deebo for Brian Burns. I don't think you need to do that. I saw yesterday a tweet saying that CBS suggested a potential trade of Brian Burns to the Ravens for a first and a third. If that's what it took to get Brian Burns, I am sending a first and a third. I literally tweeted this. I'm sending a first and a third for Brian Burns, and I'm not breaking a sweat. I am not even like losing sleep. If we had a trade calculator, the trade would say 49ers won the trade. That's what it would say. If we traded a late first and a compensatory third for Brian Burns, hell, I would even send a conditional third. If Brian Burns gets X amount of sacks, convert that third to a second. I don't care, man. I don't care about those picks. If there's anything that we learned about those picks, it is a crapshoot. And they're already picking at the end of the draft. We know they're going to be in the 30s. And go make your team better. Go make your team better. Can you find impact players in the 30s? Of course you can. Deebo Samuel was an early second-round pick. But I'm also trying to compete right now. Like right now, the sense of urgency for this year is higher than I've ever experienced as a San Francisco 49er fan. And that goes back to the Harbaugh era. Like when Harbaugh was good, like we were just good, like out of nowhere. We went 13-3 their first year. We're like, oh, this is cool. The next year, we went to the NFC Championship game. Didn't make it, though. Right? No, we went to the Super Bowl. The following year, we went to the NFC Championship game, and then we spiraled out of control and went into a complete nosedive. But I don't think there was the same sense of urgency. There's a sense of urgency right now that the 49ers need to do everything imaginable to put themselves in a position to win the Super Bowl. I really think that's what they need to do. And if you can go out and get me Brian Burns, and whether it's a first, a second, first, third, and a player, do it. Just do it. Go get BB. Save BB from the disaster that is Carolina. Put him into a quality locker room and watch him be unleashed. I think that would be phenomenal. But you already know. You already know the vibes. I don't think the 49ers should trade Deebo. I don't think that would be a good idea. I don't think it'd be a good idea to trade a captain that you still need. So I'm not trading Deebo. I'm not trading any top-end player. If you want to convince me, I'll give you my first on the table. Second, third, fourth, all these picks are on the table. 49ers have 11 picks. They're all on the table. If you want me to throw in a young up-and-coming player, I'll do it. I'm not trading any top-tier guys. I'm not doing it. But if you want a young up-and-comer with a first, with a third, I'll do it. Because I truthfully believe that the edge, the pass rush, would change the entire look of this team. And I'm here for it. I will do it. Without hesitation. Again, John Lynch, hit my line. We'll work something out. We'll work up a game plan for when we hit up Scott Fritterer. I mean, remember, I did the whole, I looked into his soul at the combine and I said, trade me Brian Burns. So the seed's been planted. Just got to hatch it. We just got to hatch the seed in Scott Fritterer's brain to trade Brian Burns to us. So I've put in the groundwork. I've put in all the legwork, all the upfront, public conditioning and all that type of stuff. Now I just need John Lynch to close it. Just close the deal. Close it. We are this close. We are this close to speaking Brian Burns to the 49ers into existence. We are literally that close. And if Brian Burns does somehow become a San Francisco 49er, it will be one of the greatest days in channel history. And I really hope that is something that we get to experience. I really do. But outside of Brian Burns, 12 days till the deadline, what other players do you think would be a good fit for the 49ers? Jeremy Chin, I don't know if he's going to be traded. He has a pretty severe hamstring injury, and it sounds like he'll be out 4 to 6 weeks. So what other players potentially would you see that the 49ers should look at? Brian Burns is at the top of everyone's list right now. Brian Burns is at the top of everyone's list. I'm looking at a list right now that shows Cardinals wide receiver Marquise Brown, Broncos wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, Vikings edge Danielle Hunter, cornerback Kaiir Elam from the Bills. I see Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back for the Chiefs. Kendrick Bourne, we know who that is. Derek Barnett, Eagles defensive end. Devin White, linebacker for the Bucks. Chase Young, D-end for the Washington Commanders. And not on that particular list, Jalen. So there's two guys that I like, Burns and Jalen Johnson, the Bears cornerback. Those are two guys that I would be interested in that I think might be available. So I would definitely look into Jalen Johnson. I would look into, obviously, Brian Burns. Those would be at the top of my list. There was reports that the 49ers called on Jalen Johnson. So that could be a potential indication that there's already interest there. So, but I'm a huge believer that they should be on the block and the 49ers should be calling. Horn and Chin are injured, which, again, I think makes that difficult for them to be traded. Devontae Adams is too expensive, in my opinion. Wait, is this real? Is that real? Brian Burns jerseys are going for $20 at what are we calling it? Ross in Carolina. That's always a solid indication that things are going south for a player when their jerseys show up at Ross for an 80% discount. I like Jalen Johnson. Chase Young, kind of similar situation to Brian Burns, unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. Could be an option for sure. Paul says, I want Brian Burns for you more than anyone. Dude, it would be such a vibe. It would be such a vibe around here. I'd be going crazy, man. I would be crazy. What's good, Callie? What's good, Throwback? I think that's the move. Burns and Johnson. Give me one of those two, man. Give me Brian Burns, Jalen Johnson. Top of the list. 49ers could kick Jalen Johnson to the outside to play opposite side of Ward. They would kick Diamador Lenore into the slot. And then that would be your starting three cornerbacks. But I want Burns, man. Give me Burns. The reason why I want Burns is that even this defense, like Chris Kocurek wants to rotate these edges, man. Like he wants to rotate these edges, and that's why I was watching the game. When I was watching the tape against the Arizona Cardinals, Austin Bryant played way more snaps than he should ever play in the 49ers. And it's not trying to take a shot at Austin Bryant. I just don't think Austin Bryant is an NFL caliber rotational player, at least not yet. He's like but he played a lot of snaps against the Cardinals. And that's when I was like, oh man, we need edge help. Like, we need edge help bad. Well, they got Randy Gregory. Well, even with Andy Gregory, they still rotated a ton. Cleveland got a lot of run, Drake got a lot of run, and Randy got a lot of run. So if the 49ers were to go get Brian Burns, all these guys would still get run. Like, we would still see Cleveland. We would still see Drake. We would still see Gregory. But when it's that gotta have it, third down, imagine what that rush, that turbo package could look like. Imagine if you had Burns on one side, Bosa on the other, Hargrave on the interior, Randy Gregory on the interior over a guard. Gregory has that Omenihu like ability to him, where he can kick in and rush over the 3 tech, and his long arms and speed would absolutely overpower guards because they're not prepared to manage a player with that type of length on the interior. And so when you're running, if that's your, and of course you're rotating in Eric, you're rotating in Kinlaw, you're rotating in Givens on the interior, you're rotating in Drake Jack, like, but that's the thing, is like, you could unleash this tidal wave of pass rushers on opposing defenses, and the initial speed of Burns is enough, in my opinion, to spook opposing quarterbacks, that they will hold the ball maybe just a tad too long, and that's all Nick Bosa needs, or else, and he would have like 8 sacks on the year. So, and it would also allow you to play rush 4, play more coverage if you had that formidable of a pass rush. So that's why I'm all for adding pass rush first, and just using the scheme on the back end to kind of fix things, and you just get after the quarterback, man. Like, oh, it's a dream. It's a dream that I've been dreaming too long. Like, honestly, I don't see how there's any more perfect of a pathway for the 49ers trading for a defensive end than Brian Burns. 49ers have made 2 trades with the Carolina Panthers in less than a year. 49ers have a first round pick. It's probably not the ideal pick that Carolina wants, but you also have to think about it. Carolina, no bottom feeder teams are trading with Carolina. They're not trading a top 10 pick because they're trying to most likely gain draft position if you're in the top 5 of the draft order right now. So I would only imagine contenders will be looking for Brian Burns. So I can't expect them to think that they're going to get some kind of, top 10 pick unless they trade with someone like the Bears, and the Bears want to give up one of their top picks for take someone in the draft and use one on Brian Burns, but I don't see them doing that. I'm trying to look up the draft order right now. Come on, man, just show me the dang draft order. Dude, these stupid apps, man. Can you just show me the draft order like I'm trying to click on? So right now, Bears 1, Cardinals 2, Denver 3, Giants 4, Bears 5, because they have the 2 picks. New England 6, Washington Commanders 7, Las Vegas Raiders 8, Green Bay Packers 9, Tennessee Titans 10, Vikings 11, Colts 12. None of these teams, to me, would be fits for Burns. Jets potentially, Bengals potentially, maybe Tampa, not Pittsburgh, maybe Saints, Rams, Seahawks. So the Rams right now are picking 20th or 21st. Seattle's picking 22nd. Ravens are 25th. Dallas 26. Eagles 27. Detroit Lions 28. Bills 29. So any team that is probably in the running for Brian Burns, it's going to be a late first. So give me Burns. Just do it. Just make me happy. All of this. Let me retire the Brian Burns agenda because it's reality. We want the we want the reality. I'm beyond the agenda. I'm on to reality. God, I would be so happy, man. I don't know if there's many things in this world that could make me happier than the 49ers trading for Brian Burns. So you get me started on the trade. It all comes back to Brian Burns. What else do you guys want to talk about? So we don't have to make this all about Brian Burns. Because obviously if you watch, you know what I feel. So it's a lot of repetitive behavior. What else we want to talk about? Talk about this guy in the chat wanting to trade Deebo. Listen, if the 49ers were going to trade Deebo, it was going to happen in the draft. That's when it was going to happen. That 1 year he had the dispute, and they didn't do it. So that tells me all I need to know. Talk about the film showing Deebo's lack of effort. There's only like one play that like really comes to my mind of Deebo kind of, if he would have gotten a block, it potentially could have sprung CMC for a touchdown, but he kind of just, I don't know. Outside of that, I don't see a ton of lack of effort from Deebo. I mean, like I said, there's only one play that sticks out to me where I was like, Deebo, if you tried a little harder on that one, it might have had a touchdown. But I can only think of the one, to be honest. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Oh, I didn't see this super chat. What, you said you asked 2? Is it fair that Kyle is kind of hurting his squad by using? Oh, you did. He did ask 2 questions, and I only talked about Brian Burns somehow. All right, let's reevaluate. Is it fair to say that Kyle is kind of hurting his squad by overusing CMC I know Mason fumbled during camp, but a fumble can be overcome more than a CMC injury. I agree. I think that we need to get Jordan Mason more involved, and we need to find a better rhythm with that and not be so reliant on just Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, you have the GOAT CMC, and you want to use them, but I think you got to get other guys involved. The answer, though, is Brian Burns. That's my answer. Mason, CMC, the answer is Brian Burns. That's the answer. You're right. You totally asked me 2 questions, and somehow the conversation about Max Crosby turned into Brian Burns for 30 minutes. So I do think I don't think it's necessarily hurting his squad. I wouldn't say it's hurting the squad, because if CMC's playing and playing well, that's not hurting anyone. But I would say it could have longer term effects if Mitchell and Mason aren't ready, and we do potentially run into an injury where we are without CMC for a couple weeks, and they're trying to get up to speed during a time when we need to be humming on all cylinders. So that's why I like the idea of getting them a little bit more involved, so that if, knock on wood, that ever happens, those guys feel ready to go when that time could potentially come. I apologize for missing that first part. And then Jesse Wade also says, is Wilkes playing too soft at cornerback for a pass rush? My answer would be yes. I think he plays way too soft. And again, I'm not a defensive guy, so I can't tell you why I think he's playing like that. My assumption is that their whole stance is keep everything in front. Basically don't give up explosives. Keep everything in front. High to low. Everything I'm seeing from this defense is high to low. They're trying to limit the big play, but they're giving the short play, and it feels like the philosophy is, don't give up the big play, but if you give up the short play, just come up, make the tackle, and we'll live to play another down. So that's what the philosophy feels like, but I can also see how it's contributing to less sack production, because the guys aren't getting enough time to get home, and there are options for the quarterbacks to get the ball out to. So I definitely would like to see I don't know, it's hard, because kind of like what Jason's saying, they gave up some big plays against the Browns. They could have gave up more big plays, like we talked about. They got lucky on the touchdown that was taken away by Njoku on that screen. Thankfully, we got a hold on that play, but I don't think that was a play that required the offensive line to hold, but he did. So we got bailed out there. There was that one rep where Amari Cooper just got what's his name, Isaiah Oliver on his butt with a really nice route, and he was wide open, but probably could have been a touchdown, but PJ didn't see it. Then you had the big Amari Cooper play that could have been a touchdown that was saved by what's his name, Oren Burks. So I don't know. It's been an interesting year watching the coverage work, for sure. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe some more speed off the edge could help with some of that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what ultimately happens. What time is it? All right. I'm doing a little partnership with Pacific Catch. We're doing a little giveaway post on Instagram. So I got to get prepared and get that thing out at 3:30. So appreciate all you guys as always for tapping in. No Ponce today. We're TBD for tomorrow. We're working through some scheduling stuff, but we'll see. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. We'll see how it goes. But shout out to everyone for tapping in. Appreciate you guys as always. Appreciate your support to the channel. All that good stuff. You guys are the best. We'll be back on for Prediction Friday tomorrow, and we'll do all that good stuff. So thank you to all you guys for tapping in. Smash that like button. Apologies for the 30 minute Brian Burns rant. Hey, I got to take advantage of it. We're only going to be talking Brian Burns maybe another week at most. So we'll see, unless the 49ers go out and trade for him. But appreciate all you guys. I'm out of here for now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see you.